Ogechi paced around her small room, biting her fingernails nervously. The thought of Chuka's mother lying in the hospital waiting for surgery was a long bridge they had to cross. She picked up her phone, scrolling through her messages hoping for some miracle, but nothing came. The surgery would cost 2 million naira, and there was no way Chuka could raise that amount. They won't even start treatment until he made a deposit. Ogechi's heart broke just thinking about how helpless Chuka sounded during their last call. She knew how much Chuka loved his mother, but where would they find that kind of money? Chuka worked as a junior clerk, and her teaching job barely even covered her bills. As she sat on her bed, her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Mma, her childhood friend, who had turned to the fast life, making money through hookups. Dressed in a tight dress and high heels, Mma strutted into the room as though she owned the place. "Babe, you look stressed," Mma said as she sat down on the bed. "What is going on?" Ogechi sighed. "It is Chuka's mother. She is sick and needs surgery, but we can't afford it." Mma rolled her eyes. "Who is Chuka again? That broke boyfriend of yours? I've told you, leave that guy. He's dragging you down. Just look at you." Ogechi replied defensively. "Mma, he's a good man. He just needs a break." Mma's eyes lit up mischievously. "Well, speaking of breaks, I have something for you. Just one night. 500,000 naira. Easy money, no stress." Ogechi asked, "What do you mean?" Mma smirked. "I have a client, rich and generous. He's willing to pay big money. You just need to come with me one night, Ogechi, and your account will smile." Ogechi frowned. "No, Mma, I have told you before, I'm not into doing hookups." "Think about it, Ogechi. 500,000. That is your share. You can use it to start the surgery. Don't let pride kill you or your dreams, so." Ogechi insisted. "Mma, I said no. Please leave my room." Mma shrugged and stood up. "Fine, suit yourself, but don't say I didn't try to help." She left, slamming the door behind her. Meanwhile, Chuka was in a different kind of desperation. His mother's condition was worsening, and every day felt like a race against time. Left with no option, he called his old friend Mike, who was now a wealthy businessman, for help. The phone rang multiple times with no response. Mike was someone Chuka hadn't spoken to in years. They had grown up in the same neighborhood, but Mike left before everyone else, and somehow he got rich. Minutes later, as Chuka sat on his bed with his head in his hands, his phone rang, and he immediately picked it up. It was Mike. They exchanged pleasantries, and Chuka jumped straight into the matter. "I am going through a lot, Mike," Chuka started. "My mother needs surgery, and I don't know how to raise the money." Mike giggled. "Money? That's nothing now. Come and see me tomorrow. I will show you how to stop begging and start living like a king." Chuka agreed and thanked him. The next day, Chuka met Mike at his luxurious home. Mike's wealth was evident in every corner. His flashy cars, the marble floors, and the smell of expensive scents that filled the air. "So, how can you help me?" Chuka asked, feeling both intimidated and hopeful. Mike leaned back in his chair. "You are like a brother to me, Chuka. So, I will teach you how to fish. But it is not easy, oh. Are you ready to do whatever it takes?" "I will do anything," Chuka said without hesitation. Mike smiled. "Good, then come with me." Mike drove Chuka to a remote location, a dark, secluded building in the middle of nowhere. Inside, men dressed in black robes sat around a large candlelit room. At the center was an altar. This is the path to wealth, Mike whispered to Chuka. They will ask you to make a little sacrifice, but after that, money will never be your problem again. The cult leader stepped forward. If you want to be rich beyond your imagination, bring us the heart of a young woman. Chuka's eyes widened. How? How do I do that? Mike patted his shoulder. Relax. I have girls on my payroll now. I will handle everything for you. Immediately they got home, Mike called Mma, his trusted shore girl. Mma, I need 2 girls tonight. My friend and I are in the mood for some fun. I'll pay you 1 million naira. Mma was shocked. 1 million for one night? Just get it done, Mike said, and don't ask questions. Mma immediately called her usual girls, but unfortunately, none of them were available. That was when she remembered Ogechi. She had tried to convince Ogechi to join her lifestyle before, but Ogechi had always refused. She wouldn't agree, Mma murmured to herself. But the money was too tempting to lose. Mma went to Ogechi's house again to try to convince her. Ogechi, listen to me. This is serious. Your share is 500,000 naira. Do you know what that means? 500,000. Mma, I already told you. Listen to me, Mma interrupted. You said Chuka's mom needs surgery, right? This is your chance to help him. Just one night. Ogechi hesitated. Are you sure it is safe? Mma grinned. Very safe and simple. Trust me. Just be yourself. Let's start going so we don't arrive late. The drive to the big house was silent. Ogechi sat nervously in the passenger seat while Mma hummed a song, clearly unbothered. Ogechi's heart raced with every mile they covered. Was this really the right thing to do? Her mind drifted to Chuka and his sick mother. She convinced herself that it was only one night. Just one night, and she could raise the money they desperately needed. When they arrived, the house was even bigger than Ogechi had imagined. It stood like a mansion with large windows glowing from the inside. Mma confidently led the way, and Ogechi followed timidly, dragging her legs behind. Mike opened the door and flashed them a wide smile. He was tall, muscular, and looked sharp in his suit. Welcome, ladies, he said warmly, gesturing for them to come inside. You look beautiful tonight. Mma giggled. Thank you, Mike. You know I always bring the best. Ogechi gave a small nervous smile as she sat down on the luxurious leather couch. Mike poured them drinks and made small talks, trying to make them comfortable. After a while, he stood up. Let me call my friend. He has been waiting to meet you ladies. Chuka was upstairs in one of the rooms, pacing nervously. His hands were sweaty and his mind was beating fast. Mike had told him that this was his only chance to get the money for his mother's surgery. But now, standing on the edge of darkness, he wasn't sure if he could go through with it anymore. Mike entered the room grinning. Chuka, your girls are here. Come and say hello. Chuka hesitated. I don't know if I can do this, Mike. Mike slapped him on the back. You're overthinking. Mma is my sure girl. She has been in this game for years. You will handle the ritual like a man with the other girl, while I will enjoy myself with Mma. I will pay her off afterward, and no one will know a thing. Welcome to your millionaire era, my friend. Chuka took a deep breath and followed Mike to the living room. However, when he entered, his eyes fell on Ogechi and he froze. Ogechi! Ogechi looked up and her heart skipped. Chuka, she called. What are you doing here? They stared at each other, both too shocked to speak. The room was heavy with silence, except for Mma's confused laughter. Wait, you two know each other? She asked. Chuka turned to Mike, confused. Mike, what is going on? Why is she here? Mike frowned. What do you mean? She's one of the girls now. Do your job and stop acting like a fool. Ogechi's hands trembled as she pointed at Chuka. Job? What is he talking about? Chuka, what are you doing here? Chuka's voice was low and shaky. Ogechi, I didn't know it was you. Mike immediately grabbed Chuka by the arm and pulled him aside. Guy, what is the problem? She's just a runs girl now. Do what you need to do fast. Chuka protested. No, there must be some misunderstanding. Ogechi's not like that. She's my girlfriend. Mike's face twisted in anger. So what? Love doesn't pay bills. You need money, don't you? She's here already, so do what you came to do. Chuka shook his head. I can't. You have no choice, Mike growled. If you don't do this, the cult will come after you. They will kill you. Is that what you want? Chuka stood frozen, torn between fear and love. Meanwhile, Ogechi sat in one of the rooms in confusion. Chuka entered quietly. She looked up at him. Her eyes were filled with questions. Chuka, what are you doing here? Do you now carry prostitutes? Chuka turned to her. I should be asking you that. When did you start doing hookup? Have you been cheating on me? Ogechi looked at him unbelievably. Are you serious? How can you think that of me? Well, if you must know, I came here because of you. I agreed to do this because of your mother. Ma promised to pay me 500,000 naira, and I thought it would be enough deposit for your mother's surgery. But I guess I was just stupid. I was a fool to think that I could sacrifice so much for you. Chuka was shocked. Ogechi, I am sorry. You shouldn't be here. It shouldn't have been you. Ogechi turned to him with a bitter smile. Oh, let me guess. It should have been someone else, right? It should have been some cheap prostitute. Let me ask you, Chuka. So you have 500,000 naira to waste on some prostitute, but you can't afford your mother's surgery. Are you that heartless? Chuka scratched his head. I wish it was that easy, Ogechi. It is complicated. I never wanted to do any of this. Ogechi searched his face. I'm listening. I believe you owe me an explanation. Let's assume your friend is the one sponsoring the hookup. Why didn't you just ask him for the money instead? Or you just wanted to satisfy your wild fantasy? Chuka sat on the edge of the bed, avoiding her gaze. It is not that easy. He said he couldn't just give me money. He said he would have to put me in his line of business. What kind of business is that? Ogechi asked. Chuka's silence spoke louder than words. Chuka, tell me, Ogechi demanded. Chuka finally looked at her. His eyes were filled with tears. They told me to bring the hearts of a young woman for money ritual. Ogechi gasped and backed away. You were going to kill me? No, Chuka shouted and stood up. I didn't know it would be you. I swear, Ogechi, I didn't know. Tears poured down Ogechi's face. How could you even agree to do this, Chuka? How could you? I was desperate, he cried. My mother is dying. I didn't know what else to do. Ogechi shook her head. Her back was pressed against the wall. Chuka, please, don't do this. We've come so far together. Don't let it end like this. Chuka looked at her painfully. If I don't do it, Mike will kill me. The cult will come for me. Ogechi cried. Please, Chuka, don't do this. Let's run away. We'll find another way. Please, Chuka, don't let them turn you into a monster. Chuka sat down and buried his face in his hands. After a long silence, he finally spoke. I have an idea, but you have to trust me. What is it? Ogechi asked. I will drug you, but I won't hurt you, Chuka said. I will just change the plan. Ogechi hesitated, still afraid. Are you sure, Chuka? Please, I don't want to die. Chuka nodded. Yes, just trust me. Chuka poured a glass of wine, drugged it, and handed it to Ogechi. Her hands trembled as she took it. I'm scared, Chuka. I know, but I promise I won't let anything happen to you. Ogechi closed her eyes and drank the wine. Within minutes, she felt herself drifting into sleep. Chuka quickly went to the kitchen and poured out 2 glasses of wine. His heart was pounding in his chest like a drum. Chuka quickly went to the kitchen and poured out 2 glasses of wine. His heart was pounding in his chest like a drum. He could hear the sound of Mike, lost in another world from one of the rooms. He took a deep breath. This was his only chance to protect Ogechi, the love of his life, and himself. He drugged one of the drinks, picked up the glasses carefully, one in each hand, and walked towards Mike's room. He hesitated for a moment, standing outside the door before knocking softly. He could hear voices from inside. What is it? Mike's voice barked from behind the door. The door swung open, revealing Mike, who was clearly irritated. Chuka, I'm in the middle of something now. What do you want? Chuka forced a nervous smile. I'm sorry to disturb you, Mike. I need a bit of morale before I finish the job. It is harder than I thought. Mike's expression softened and he smirked. I knew you would get cold feet. Good thing I'm here to guide you. Chuka held out a glass of wine to him. Yeah, let's have a little drink and talk in the living room. Mike hesitated for a moment before grabbing the glass. Fine, but you need to man up. We don't have all night now. The 2 men sat in the living room. The air was thick with tension. Mike sipped his wine confidently, eyeing Chuka with amusement. So, you have drugged her, right? Good boy. This is the first step. Chuka nodded, faking a small smile. Yes, she's out cold. I just need a moment to gather myself. This is all new to me. Mike laughed, patting Chuka on the back. You'll get used to it. You are stepping into the big leagues now. After tonight, you'll be a made man. Welcome to the Millionaire Club. Chuka forced a laugh, watching carefully as Mike's eyelids began to droop. His words started slurring, and his head swayed slightly. Mike, are you okay? Chuka asked, feigning concern. Mike tried to wave him off. I'm fine, just feeling a little. Before he could finish talking, his head fell to the side and he collapsed into the chair. Chuka stood up immediately. He rushed to the kitchen, grabbed a large knife and wrapped a handkerchief around the handle. He paused for a moment, trying to calm his shaking hands. Before returning to the living room, he stared at Mike's unconscious body. This is for Ogechi, he muttered, and drove the knife into Mike's chest. Once, twice, 3 times. Blood pooled around Mike, staining the chair and the floor. Chuka quickly placed the knife into Mike's lifeless hands, wrapping his fingers around it to make it look like suicide. Chuka hurried back to the room where Mma was waiting, still unaware of what had just happened. She looked up as he entered. What is going on? Why do you look so scared? Mma, Chuka said urgently, something has happened. Mike tried to force me to kill Ogechi, and when I refused, he attacked me. I had no choice. I killed him in self-defense. Mma's eyes widened in shock. What? You killed him? Chuka nodded. I didn't have a choice. He was going to kill me. Where is Ogechi now? Mma asked as she ran out to the hallway. She's still in the room, Chuka said. I already drugged her, but we need to leave now. We can't stay here. Mma stood still. This is too much. I'm leaving, please. I don't want to be part of this. We can't leave Ogechi here, Chuka pleaded. Help me get her out. Chuka rushed back to Mike's room, searching for anything useful. He found a briefcase on the floor and opened it. There were several stacks of cash in naira and dollar notes. His eyes widened. This was enough money to change his life forever. He grabbed the briefcase and ran to Ogechi's room. She was still deep asleep from the drugged wine. He lifted her gently into his arms and carried her out of the house, with Mma following behind. Once they were outside, Mma turned to Chuka. I'm leaving. I don't want to have anything to do with this, but I promise I won't tell anyone. In fact, we never met. Thank you, Mma, Chuka said. Thank you for everything. Mma disappeared, leaving Chuka alone with Ogechi. Chuka carried Ogechi to his small apartment and laid her gently on the bed. He sat beside her, watching her sleep. His mind was filled with thoughts of what had just happened. In the middle of the night, Ogechi stirred. Her eyes opened and she looked around, confused. Chuka, where am I? You are safe, Chuka said. We escaped. Escaped? How? What happened? Ogechi asked, sitting up slowly. I will explain everything later, Chuka said. But we need to leave town immediately. It is not safe here anymore. Ogechi nodded in relief. I'm just glad that we are okay. At dawn, Chuka and Ogechi boarded the first bus heading to his village. Ogechi was still groggy, but she trusted Chuka completely. She didn't ask any more questions. As the bus rumbled along the dusty road, Chuka held the briefcase tightly in his lap. He knew he couldn't tell Ogechi the full truth about what had happened. All she needed to know was that they were safe and he would take care of everything. With the money he had taken from Mike's room, which was over 5 million naira, Chuka was able to pay for his mother's surgery. The operation was successful and she recovered fully. Chuka used the remaining money to start a small business, and with Ogechi by his side, they began to rebuild their lives. I'm sorry for putting you in danger, Chuka said one evening as they sat in the sitting room of their new house. Ogechi smiled. And I'm sorry for agreeing to go that night. We've both made mistakes, but we've also learned from them. We'll never do this again. Months later, news reached them that Mike's death had been ruled a suicide. His fingerprints had been found on the knife. Chuka and Ogechi exchanged a glance but said nothing. Their secret was safe with them. Thank you for watching this story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story with me in the comment section. Give the story a thumbs up and also share with your loved ones. Subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now. Until I bring another story your way. Bye!